Sex and sexuality are still considered taboo subjects by many people in Nigeria, and even more so when young people are involved. It can seem a bit confusing seeing as standard academic curriculum in Nigeria at some stage exposes young people to the basics of human biology, which of course includes sex. And yes, there are many young people who explore sex and are exploring sex. But how widespread is awareness of contraception among young people? How much access do they have to it? Are there any legal barriers to the use of contraception among young people? This and many more on Her Matters. Hello and welcome to Her Matters. I am your host. My name is Chioma Omero.
Culture of silence. Again, silence, because if you even try to say, oh, he did this to me, she did this to me, people then say, where's your proof? Are you sure?
Now, what I've seen is parents are not talking to their daughters and their sons. They are not talking to them.
So when people now think that if someone in the medical profession or in healthcare or in that field carries out the process, it would be safer.
The other part of it is the way we structured our healthcare system to actually selectively, remove these patent medicine vendors out of the entire health loop. We don't officially recognize them, but there's a significant role they have to play.
Welcome to Her Matters. I am your host. My name is Chioma Omero. Her Matters is a talk show series that focuses on pressing issues affecting women across the world. We shed light on some of the most delicate subjects surrounding the health and welfare of women. Today we're talking youth and contraceptives, and with me on the show to discuss this issue is Enitan Sophie Olua. Enitan is the SDG's youth champion and founder of Matinee Empowerment for Sustainable Impact Initiative, NESI. Welcome to Her Matters.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good. I'm so glad you could make it. We're talking, of course, youth and contraceptives.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we know that when it comes to contraceptives, you can't have that discussion about contraceptives without talking about sex.
Sure.
And you can't talk about sex in this space and in our environment and community without feeling some type of way, because it's something that's not discussed openly.
Sure.
I want you to, first of all, tell us what Matinee does, what Matinee is about, and what your job is,
yes,
before we go into how yeah.
Okay, so by way of introduction, my name is Enitan Olua, and I'm the founder of Matinee Empowerment for Sustainable Impact Initiative. And what we do at Matinee is we provide comprehensive sexuality education to the vulnerable people. And when we talk about vulnerable, we're looking at persons with disabilities, we're looking at orphans, and of course the elderly too. Elderly because some of these people get exploited. And then for persons with disabilities, so I've been in the family planning, reproductive health space for a while, and one of the things I noticed is that in most of our programming, we do not include persons with disabilities. And in my mind, I'm like, these guys are not asexual.
Right.
I've had a lot of people who just get unwanted pregnancies, who also pick up infections. And then I just thought I have to do something about this. It's not just to notice and complain. Why don't you just take charge? So basically what we do is we bridge the gap. We go on outreaches to schools and colleges, talking to people. And we also use a digital platform.
Amazing.
Just any way to reach them, because young people like to access these services discreetly. They don't want anybody to know that they are having this conversation, and they do not even want to have it with their parents. So somebody or a group of people have to do it. So I work with a team of volunteers, and that's what we've been doing.
A 2017 study from the University of Calabar puts the number of people that use contraception at between 11 and 13%. That is so low. It is alarming and painful at the same time. So literally, only 11 to 13% of people realize that there is something called contraception, meaning I literally have control over my body. So they don't know that. But why do you think the number is so low?
Okay, so first I'd like to say that data is a problem. So yes, as much as we want to agree with this, I would say that we will need more information, because just like every other sector in Nigeria, we do not really have accurate data.
Numbers,
we really would have to watch that again. But one of the things that affect contraceptives will have to do with the myths and misconception, looking at and also we have the cultural, religious, and social, psychological factor. Because the kind of story people hear about contraceptives, people just fly with a lot of stories, and people just want to stay away because they're like, oh no, if you use contraceptives, this will happen to you. You're going to get fat. You're not going to be able to make a baby. and all those kind of things. Those are the things people fly with. So people try to avoid it, and this is where comprehensive sexuality education comes in. What we do with CSC is that we give age-appropriate information. Okay. Because if I'm going to talk to a girl or a boy who is 17, the kind of information I will give will definitely be different from a boy or a girl who is 10,
right.
7.
Right.
And with CSC, what we also do is we also help prevent abuses and exploitation. Because right now, a lot of young people get abused. Some even abuse themselves because they've been abused several times and they now think that that's the way it should be.
Right.
So they abuse themselves and abuse other youngsters. So comprehensive sexuality education, we have to give appropriate information. With that, you see that people can now make informed choices. They get to know that this is what I should do and have their agency, which is their body, to understand that sometimes we even try to do this with, so our audience will determine what we're going to preach. If I'm going to talk to a Christian audience now, I probably will be looking at biblical verses to say that even the Bible says you have to take care of your children. So in taking care of your children, you need a number of children that you can cater to.
Right.
And this is where contraceptives comes in.
Right.
And we also make them understand that contraceptive, really, is it really about pregnancy? This is Africa, and we know how people really want to procreate, have babies. So you could say pregnancy is like a blessing, and that is when it is wanted.
Right.
Because of course we don't want to deny the fact that a lot of people are going through IVF, they are trying for babies.
Right.
So we will not try to, we're not going to shy away from that. But we're looking at things that are deeper than pregnancy. Let's talk about STIs. These things that are preventable. Looking at the Nigerian situation, you do not have access to healthcare. And because sexuality is not something you want to go and talk about. People do not want to talk about STIs to their doctors.
They don't.
Because we are not having sex.
Yeah.
We are just making babies.
The babies are just coming, they're just appearing.
We're just popping
They're
them.
they're just coming out.
Yes. That's the reason why we need the comprehensive sexuality education.
Right.
So people can make informed choices and informed decisions. Just like we say with HIV adverts, they show for face. Hepatitis B will not be on the face.
Yep.
People will look very healthy and they are walking bags of troubles.
Yes.
And when you cannot afford taking care of yourself, what's going to happen? Now we're looking at even the economic part of it. When young people now fall sick and they can no longer tend to their day-to-day activities, a large number of our population are young people. They cannot be productive, they cannot do all that things, and we do not even have access to these things. So how do we go about it? So that's what we do, try to teach them to say, take care of yourself. You really, really have to ensure that your reproductive years get very, very productive.
Now let's talk about teenage pregnancy, for example. A demographics health survey, DHS, in 2013 indicated that from a survey, 24% of the people that were surveyed were not even 15 when they first had sex.
Yes.
15.
Yes.
Like when I saw that and I saw those numbers and I said to myself, 24% of this group of women were not even 15 when they first had sex. So like literally they were uneducated. And that makes it makes you a little worried and a little scared, right? About what we're going to face or what we're facing with regards to just uninformed children having sex and not even knowing about their bodies, what more even having control over their bodies. Now, what I wanted to ask you is, should this be enough of a reason to encourage contraception use?
Yeah, so this is a very big factor because teenage pregnancy is something that we're dealing with by the year, and it affects a lot of other parts of our lives and our world. And this also comes from the fact that we keep pretending that these young people are not having sex. I keep talking about the hypocrisy. We just keep pretending that they're not having sex. Our laws are not even making it also bearable. So because I'm always on the field most times, we go to most of these schools and they're in underserved communities. We have a lot of them just come out and talk to us. Now, what I've seen is parents are not talking to their daughters and their sons. They are not talking to them. So when they are getting, a minor cannot have sex. That's like statutory rape.
Right.
These are minors who are having sex. A minor cannot.
Right.
But because we are shying away from these conversations, it will happen.
Minors are exploring. Because these days everybody's exploring.
What they do is more than exploration.
Well, it starts from wanting to know, right?
Or wanting to know because of the kind of information that they've gotten.
Have, right, exactly.
And because when parents are talking to them, there's always this negative vibes or just don't. So there was a particular, when we're having conversation with young people, you probably would have heard most people make joke about it. They just tell you about how, Auntie, is it true that if anybody sees my pants, I'll get pregnant. And it comes from this story of, imagine a young girl wanting to, because her mother has told her that if anybody sees your pants, you're going to get pregnant. And she's trying to climb on the decks in her class, and she pulls up her pants and climbs without it because that's the information she got.
That's a whole nother.
We are not explicit. We really have to ensure. And the moment a teenager gets pregnant, this is like being a woman before a girl, a mother before a girl, and it's really, really sad because the number is numbing. It's like, you just see it, like these people have a whole life in front of them, particularly when these people are people who are struggling from underserved communities. This is a life, poverty circle continues. This is somebody who has parents who are struggling, and then for one reason or the other. So we cannot just continue this way. Let them know. I understand that a lot of us are not comfortable talking about it, but most times when we go to schools and want to talk to them, or gatherings where we have youth, they want to know what's the content, what do you want to talk to them about? Oh, you people have come again, this NGO, to come and talk to them about sex. And we tell them, without talking to these people, they know. So why don't we give them age-appropriate information? So when we give them the information that they need, they can now make informed choices. Many of them have sex thinking that it's something magical based on the videos or the stories they've heard. Then when they have their sexual debut, they realize that it's not even what it is. And this is also where sexual reproductive advocacy comes from. Because some of them, I've encountered young people who say that because they have painful periods, they're being advised that go and have sex. When you get sexually active, your pains will reduce. Yes, and a lot of young girls, actually, their first sex leads to pregnancy. So what do we say about that? Because they are not getting the right information. And this is the time we need to have quality conversations with the children. Let them know that this is a new phase. In any case, if you do not tell them, they will get it.
But honestly, like you said, if you're not giving them information, they're going to the internet. This is the age of the internet. The internet rules everything.
So now, like, these people are like digital.
Going, So, but you see, my question when it comes to that is, on the internet you can find information for everything, about anything. Now, at the same time, there's really a lot of talk about sex, but it's not the proper information about sex on the internet. It's about this dream. It's about what it's supposed to be like. Nobody gives you either medical ways, or nobody's breaking it down for you like you need to hear it so that you know what you need to do to protect yourself or to have control of your bodies, which is the first thing. It's not even, if you have control over your body, you want to protect yourself. Now, why do you think that there's a whole lot of talk about sex, but not necessarily a proper talk about sex?
So this is what happens when we continue to just do this thing in osh. We're not being realistic, and we're not being attuned with like the reality of what's happening now. These people have this, and it's just like we say as Christians, stolen fruits are usually sweeter, because people do not want to do it. These people are curious. They see it everywhere. Almost everything, our entire world is sexualized now. From billboards to the kind of music they listen to the kind of movies they see. So they just want to attempt it and then see what it is. And this is where having the right information comes. Because with the right information, many of them would rather delay sex than have it at the time they have it. And even if they want to, they know they are doing the right thing. They are getting access to the quality things they need to protect themselves and prepare for the journey ahead.
Now, I know that in Nigeria, there are no regulations that control the use of contraception in Nigeria.
Yes.
So anybody can literally go and get contraception from a pharmacy or from a chemist. Over the counter. Anybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there was a time it was trending where there was this young lady who was coming back from buying a condom and then is harassed on the road by the Nigerian police for, in my opinion, I thought she should have been applauded as opposed to harassed, because you can obviously see, because once again, we do this thing on the hush. We don't talk about it outside. This girl, on a regular day, we're glad she has condoms, so she knows what it is for. So she's in control of her body, but she's being made fun of, being ridiculed, being harassed. What do you have to say about that? Okay,
so the thing is, because of this lack of control and that is why we give the right information.
Right.
What you have is a lot of people who now they abuse these drugs. They use it. You see people popping drugs and then their hormones gets
Yeah.
they get destabilized.
It's a whole
because
other range of
they
medical
do not
issues.
have. We have like different forms of contraceptives. You need to understand the one that works for your body, which is why we say talk to a professional.
Right.
So that will help you get the exact one that will work. Because when you're talking to a professional, your family history will be taken account of, because there are some drugs that could trigger other things. And what we hear most times is like the bad reviews of how I took it, and then I became fat. I took it, I was having high blood pressure. I took it, I was having this. People will just keep on talking about it. Nobody really shares the testimony of, oh, I've been on this particular method and this has happened. And then we now say that your neighbor is using a particular method and it has worked for her. It does not mean it's going to work for you. Why not just walk to? I'm happy that the federal government is beginning to take a lot of initiative, because now when you go to public hospitals, even state government, you see youth-friendly centers now. You see family planning centers. Just that green circle.
I'm very happy about that.
But again, we are not sure if the kind of services they render there are really youth-friendly in the sense that can a young person walk into that place without feeling judged or victimized?
Even if you go to like be it an abortion clinic or something, or you're here as a young person, when a nurse will see a young lady, and by the time they eye you up and down, like, what are you doing here? Or you're already thinking to yourself, they probably think I'm a bad girl or something. And it could have been anything, for any reason why that girl came to that place. She could have been raped, anything could have happened. And I think that's part of why this is such a huge problem, because we are not being truthful enough to speak
out about it. We're not letting people take charge of their reproductive health. And I think that what the law is also doing is being hypocritical. Our laws, for instance, doesn't allow abortion. Yes, we know, but this same law provides that when a young girl has badly done abortion and she's being rushed to the hospital, she could be evacuated. So we've seen instances where young people get pregnant, they're going to the hospital, they want to have an abortion, and they just tell them, go back, you cannot have it. When a young girl wants to have an abortion, or a woman, she would find it whichever ways. So the question is, why an abortion? Why not provide the right information that can even prevent
and avoid having
it? Because there are statistics that shows that 1 in 8 girls, like as we're sitting here now, 10 minutes, a girl is somewhere fighting for her life because of a badly done abortion. How long are we going to lose young people to this? And contraceptives will still take us to comprehensive sexuality education. There are a lot of factors to consider. I like to see the discussion around youth and contraceptives on the area of the economic side of it, our society. Because when a young girl gets pregnant, or even a young boy impregnates a young girl, there's no way they can be productive, make money, because she'll probably be losing school years, be losing this, be losing that. So when they have the right information, they'll stay away. Now let's now talk about STIs. Because if they're getting pregnant, I am Yoruba, and then I think that having a child could be a blessing, particularly when that child is by choice, not by chance. So now, getting an STI could be worse, because our healthcare system, we except we want to lie to ourselves, is out of pocket. You really, really have to pay, and people will not go and talk to doctors, so they do not turn themselves in until they've gotten to the advanced stage. So instead of having all this score, why don't we just talk to them, give them age appropriate. If we give them age appropriate comprehensive sexuality education, a lot of this will be avoided completely. No need to even try to procure an abortion, and there's no need to be hypocritical about this whole abortion rule, because when we are talking about this, what we have now is that it's very expensive to get an abortion, and people do it backdoor, but people will look for the money to get it done, and quacks are the ones that are having the day, which will lead to a lot of things.
Quacks. Yes. Now, speaking about abortions, the abortion law of the criminal code within sections 228 states that any doctor providing a miscarriage to a woman is guilty of a felony and up to 14 years of imprisonment. But the law says nothing about outlawing contraception. So if this is the law, then why should young people not be allowed access to contraception?
Boils down to hypocrisy. We want to pretend they are not having sex. You know, there's always this shenanigan about you have to have sex within the confine of marriage. If you're not a certain age, you cannot. But we cannot pretend that these things are not happening. Like, I mean, times have changed. So I would rather, and a lot of parents do not want to take responsibility. I get it that parents are busy these days. The mother is out, Lagos traffic, Nigeria, all of economic inflation. People are going through a lot, so they do not really have time to have conversations with their children. And then people want to say it's because of the movies. It's because, no. Give your child the right information. Be friends with them at this stage when they're young people, because they are at critical stages in their life where they can make decisions that could make or mar them. Wow. So this access to contraceptives is something that we need to know, because when we give people the right information, nothing like informed choice. once they can make an informed choice, some people will decide to say, I want to abstain for this period of time, I will do this with it, and it makes everybody happier and better.
I really love that whole concept of having a child by choice and not by chance. That puts you in total control of the decision-making process of what your body is going to do. So the Nigerian Constitution protects a person's right to personal liberty. That's in section 35. And this, I believe we can all agree, protects the rights of every Nigerian, young and old. Should this also be understood to protect the rights of young people for them to use contraception? As it is.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, I think Nigeria is a country where we have a lot of laws. I would like to say that most of our policies and laws are just like copy and paste. A lot of it in reality and in enforcing is we are far from it. We just have these things here because a lot of young people, till we get to the stage where a young person can confidently walk to maybe a chemist shop, a pharmacy to buy contraceptives and protection and not feel guilty or not try to distract people around them by buying everything at the shop because they don't want to. But I think I also like that people are taking charge now because online now people can order some of these things. People can find
there's even apps and things you can go and order. You can whether it be home test kits or things like that. So we're so glad. So social media is bringing some good things.
It's bringing so much and definitely access to contraceptive and sexuality education is like a human right that should not be denied anybody at all. Anybody, if you're going to leave my
amazing. So we could talk about this subject forever because there's so much more to talk about, so much more to unpack. But we have to bring this to an end. So thank you so much for coming to talk to us and
thank you so much for having me.
With us. Thank
you for having me.
And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for being with me. I'd like to say a very big thank you to our principal partner, Worthy. We'd like to also say thank you to the Herbert Wee Foundation for this beautiful space, and of course, Hasty Health Initiative. Until next time, take care of yourselves and be safe.